Gary and I have become inseparable friends. It's his utter spontaneity that I find so unique, so refreshing. His moods, his feelings move visibly across his face. I know if he's happy or sad at a glance. When happy, he's like a performing dog, running around, his tongue out, barking at the air, jumping up and wagging his tail. But sad, I come upon him from time to time in the depths of a tavern, bottle before him, always ouzo when in this state, head in hands, tears running down his face, stone silent. If he's not too far gone, I can usually coax him out of his gloom. I sit down in front of him, charge our glasses, and inquire as to the nature of his woes. It's always to do with Eleni. Ah, Papa, how can she love me? How can she love me? Can she love someone, a drunkard like me? You see, she doesn't like me drinking, Papa, you understand? I brace myself for a tale of woe. Papa, it was like this. She told me yesterday she wouldn't be able to see me today. She was busy preparing for exams. Of course, I was sad at first. You know, Papa, I am always sad when I can't see Eleni. But then, and Gary's face lights up despite himself, that meant I didn't have to stay sober today. I could have a little drink. So I came looking for you. Perhaps you too felt like a drink. You know, the morning was so perfect for a little drink down at the promenade, all the girls passing. Whoops. No. Eleni, I only want you. He corrects himself quickly with this prayer-like utterance. I looked for you everywhere. I asked everybody. I listened for your flute. No, you were nowhere to be found. Alors, I went along and bought a little... He always calls a bottle little, whatever the size it is. A bottle of ouzo and went down to sit by the water alone. I finished that one, was on my way through the town to the shop to get some more. Ah, Papa, I'm a fool. Why did I not look at the clock? Eleni was getting off the bus? Oui, Papa. Eleni was getting off the bus. Merde. Until I arrived in town, Gary had been staying anywhere he could. Friends put him up. He shuffled around from one house to another, getting a bed, getting fed. But for his pocket money, the funds necessary for his hobby, drinking, he had to do a spot of begging now and then. It was for these little bottles of ouzo by the waterside, should he have a day off from meeting Eleni, that he needed pocket money. When I come along and he hears that I sleep on the beach, he decides that he too will live under the stars. Why not? It's summer now. So he gets hold of a sleeping bag and we set up camp together. There's no need for him to beg anymore. I play the promenade every evening, make ample for us to eat and drink our fill. In return, Gary takes it upon himself to do the chores, such as lighting the fire and making the tea in the morning, running to town to get things we run out of, though I never know when he's going to come back. Should he run into a friend or Eleni or a little bottle of ouzo? The pace of life we set ourselves suits us. We're awoken in the morning by the bright-eyed sun, whose heat drives us out of our sleeping bags. Sipping bowls of tea, we sit looking at the sea a while before heading into town to a cafe by the seafront where, if on the counting of our resources we find enough remains after the previous night's successes in the tavern, We order a special breakfast of yogurt, honey ladled from a barrel poured over it, fried eggs, toast, and coffee. Gary disappears after this to see his old chums, which he digs out here and there, or to see his beloved. I wander along the promenade, stopping to chat with an old fellow, Stavros, always to be found dangling a line over the railings near the bridge. He tells me about the waters here, the mystery of the currents, how so many people have drowned trying to plumb the depths below the bridge. He tells me of the town's history, its legends, bitter fighting with the Turks, the castle on the hill that overlooks Alkida, surrounded by its dark cypress trees, had already suggested wars to me. The line twitches, he starts tugging, then up! Something silvery flashes in the sunlight, lands at our feet, wriggling, flicking. It's a swordfish. There are lots of them in here, Severus tells me. I get the things necessary for lunch at the market, bread, cheese, olives, tomatoes, then go looking for my funny little friend. We set off for one of the further beaches where we sit in the shadow of a rock and eat. The afternoon we spend swimming, talking, lying on our backs in the sun and talking. Eleni's father's a judge, Papa. A judge? Christ, Gary, you do pick the right ones. He doesn't like me, Papa. I laugh. Gary, I'm really not very surprised. I start laughing and rolling about on the sand. But, Gary, I exhort, helpless with mirth, you must be the very last person on earth a judge could want to see his daughter with. He doesn't know whether to be offended or amused by what I've just said. He looks hurt. Oh, Gary, you know what I mean. People like that, judges, politicians, generals, cops, don't like the likes of us. The last thing they want to see is their daughters going around with us. You know, let me tell you this. If I had a daughter, you would be the first person I'd want to see her go around with. As long as you didn't hurt her by chasing after others. I wag my finger at him. Gary smiles. He's visibly touched. Is that true, Papa? Yes, Gary, it's true. Now, but I don't have a daughter, thank goodness. But it would be true, I suppose. Anyway, now, what were you saying about Eleni's father? Only that he doesn't like me and he's always trying to make trouble for me here in Halkila. He talks to the police. You know, I was in prison here and tortured. It was because of him. He'll try to get rid of me, make me leave Halkila. I know it. He was asking Eleni about me yesterday, if she had seen me. And what did she say? I don't know, Papa. He's throwing stones into the sea. Why is life so hard, Papa? I catch sight of a glint on his cheek. He's crying. I don't know, Gary. I suppose it's to test us. But to test us for what? For God's sake, Papa. He chokes, a kind of rage welling up in him. I don't know. One evening, Gary being off with his heartthrob somewhere, and I, finding Andrea's taverna closed, go into another restaurant for a jug of wine and a quiet read. I pull out my volume of Whitman. It falls open on Song of the Open Road. Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road. Ha! This is the stuff. I tip back a vial or two and read on. I am a dance. Play up there. The fit is whirling me fast. Ha! Sublime. More wine, more wine. Ecstatic with Whitman's words and the wine, I pull my pipe from my pocket and start blowing. A jug of wine's dispatched to my table from a company of diners the other side of the room. The restaurant's full, and the atmosphere is becoming merry, as a Greek taverna will at the appearance of a musical instrument. People are clapping their hands and smiling gaily. This is unprecedented applause, and I begin to play more wildly, with even more abandon, with Whitman's words in my head and wine being dispatched in my direction from every corner of the taverna. It's too much for the owner, however, a scowling fellow who comes over to me and snaps, "Stop!" "No," I bark back and carry on, at which he takes the jugs of wine off my table and up to the counter at the far end. A silence descends, an apprehensive hush over the whole scene. I get up, pick up my empty glass, and make for the counter at which the boss is standing. Seizing one of the jugs of wine, I charge my glass and throw the contents of it in his face. He stands there a moment, wine dripping down his suit, fuming, speechless with rage. He grabs the telephone. "I'll get the police." "Well, get them," I taunt, grabbing one of my jugs of Ritzina and taking it to my table. I sit down and drink, lifting my glass in salute to the assembled company of diners, my benefactors around me. They're displaying a mixed reaction of mirth and anxiety. They applaud my action, my stance, my defiance in the face of the disagreeable owner, but they're anxious about my fate. They know that the police will be here in a minute. And so they are. The boss is angrily pointing me out to them, and then one of them's at my table saying, "Ella Massimo, come with me." "No," I bark defiantly, and then not knowing what to do, he retreats to the counter. A young fellow, a student, gets up from his table and is beside me, imploring me to see sense and escape with him before it's too late. The urgency in his tone brings me to my senses, and together we rush out onto the street and down to the promenade. "It was very good and very funny what you did," says my benefactor. "The owner of that place is a nasty man. No one likes him. We only eat there because it's cheap and the food is good. But he's no good. Doesn't like music. You saw that. He's an ex-policeman, and he would have made sure you had a very, very bad time if they'd taken you." "I thank you very much, friend," I say to him as we bid each other goodbye in the invigorating wind off the strait.